sort of, I wouldn't say necessarily a more advanced topic, but let's say we have book B1 becomes new book. Okay, we create an instance of a book, and let's imagine that I do this 3 times. I make 3 books. Okay, and we don't need to really worry about the details of that. If I have my magical JVM, let's put it over here. Okay, so I have B1, I have B2, and I have B3. So we can imagine these objects are happily floating around the JVM, and these are the references to these objects. Okay. We need to store these things somewhere, and in particular, Java uses a heap for this. So somewhere in our memory, we'll actually have an address to this object. We have a reference. These are the references, and these are the objects. But ultimately, this is going to be stored at something like 32A, 4B, and so on. Okay. And the same thing, this will be at 61BCF, some kind of weird hexadecimal location. And these are actual raw locations of where things are stored. So 74AGH, whatever. Okay. We'll also have a count of how many references there are to these. Okay. So right now, there is 1 reference to each of these objects. If I were to do something like, let's say B1 becomes B2, because we can do that in Java. So we can then say, well, this no longer points to this object. This now points to this object. Okay. So in effect, we break this reference. Over here, we're going to then say, okay, there's now 0 references pointing to this particular thing in memory, but now we actually have 2 references pointing to the same object somewhere in memory. And Java's kind of clever because it has this, let's put it down here. It has this garbage collector, which I, again, like to think of as a little robot that sort of keeps an eye on these references. And whenever something gets to 0, well, then it can actually come in and then just say, well, just free up that memory. We don't need that object anymore. No one's referring to it anymore. And we have no way to suddenly refer back to it again, because B1 is now pointing to a completely different object. Okay. This is nice. Java does this for us. The JVM runs the garbage collection intermittently and eventually frees up all this memory. Why is that important? Well, before garbage collection in languages, you would actually have to manually allocate and deallocate memory. And if you forget to deallocate memory, then eventually you start to run out of resources. So Java has this very nice way of dealing with that for us.